and really just a very, very special school. So I hope that today you'll get a little bit of a feeling for that and understand that, you know, it's well worth your time that you're in this session today. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks. And I also want to emphasize that even if you're applying to other universities, hopefully all of this advice will also be useful for those universities as well. This is not just specific to NYU, but these are things that can really help you for any competitive university that you're applying to. And since we now have Sophia also on the line, Sophia, if you wouldn't mind also introducing yourself, just your name, your major, your current year, and maybe also where you call home.
Definitely. So hi everyone, my name is Sophia. I am a junior. I am majoring in general engineering, specializing in biomedical and health systems. I'm originally from Athens, Greece. I also got to know NYU AD thanks to Justin, who came to my school in Athens. And I'm very excited to also be representing, you know, a Greek student in this session today.
Great, thanks so much. And actually, I'll keep it with you, and ask you. Before you joined, I asked what students' application journey was like. And you mentioned a little bit about this. And if maybe you could speak a little bit more about the process, kind of the people that you had helping you along and kind of figuring out where you wanted to apply and how to go through the process.
Definitely. So I think a lot of people in my year when I was applying to colleges had like their own private advisors who like help them with essays. So going into applying to American universities and universities abroad, I felt very disadvantaged because I wasn't really part of those like private tutoring centers that had like people helping them with essays. So a lot of it was my own work. A lot of it was meeting constantly with my college counselors on campus in my high school, constantly asking for recommendation letters, being in touch about any editing for my essays. I even used English teachers who helped me with my essays. My application process, I also applied to UK universities and I applied through the Common App. So I tried to really like stretch my application through a lot of different geographies. I think my application journey started about a year before I actually submitted my application. It was a very stressful season because I was doing testing and I was also constantly drafting essays. But I would say it takes a long time because you really need to put your entire personality into what you write. It cannot be just an essay you submit for a class. It really is a self-reflection, so it takes long.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's important to note that it's not something simple, but it's not difficult. You know, it takes some foresight and some thought, but it's something that is, you know, can be a really fascinating and fulfilling thing to do. So for the next part, I'm going to drop into some more specific questions, and I'd like to ask each of you if you could tell me what your top 3 extracurricular activities are. So usually when I'm telling students or giving them advice on filling out the application, I tell them to list the thing that they're most proud of at the very top of their application, and then the lesser things, maybe not that much lesser, but those other things following it. So I'll go back to Dimitrios. Would you mind sharing your extracurricular activities with us?
Thank you for this opportunity. I would say that the extracurriculars were one of the things that actually gave me a great amount of joy during my academic journey, and I think that what I would suggest to all of you in this panel discussion is to go out there and do the things that fulfill you personally, because you would be the best at those things, not the things that you would think that others would see good at, your application. So in that essence, for me, one of the things that always fulfilled me was public speaking. That's why I was a part of the MUN club of my school. That's why I really enjoyed taking part in such conferences, and that's actually one of the things that I continue to do in the university together with Sophia as well. Another thing that I truly enjoyed was basketball. So it was one of the ways that I used to relieve my stress. I would always go find 1 hour or 2 hours or maybe 3 hours during a week to try to go out on the field, play with my team, and let's just have a really good time. And the third thing I would say was entrepreneurship. I was in the entrepreneurship club of my school, and we went out there and we made virtual startups. I guess virtual is a term that we use right now because of Zoom, but we also used it back in the day. So in that sense, I would say to all of you, do the things that you enjoy personally, because those are the things that you would not mind spending time at, but you would actually cherish that time. That's all from me.
Thanks. And Nicolo?
Yeah, for me, I think so. I didn't reply to the one before, and I just want to say that for me it was a bit unusual because none of my teachers were ready for an American application. So it was a journey of discovery for everyone in my high school. And I would definitely agree that you need time to it. Like it took me basically the whole fall semester for me to figure out what to do and how to do it. So I agree with Sophia. And for the extracurricular activities, I was lucky to be in a high school with a lot of different activities proposed, and so that really helped me. And I'm also like naturally curious. So if you're naturally curious, that's like try to explore as much as you can because you never know what you would like to do eventually. And I think that the top were definitely when I participated in the MUN. It was a project in Italy that took almost a year actually, because it was a weekly meeting thing. And then we also went to New York to a bigger conference, like it was like a sort of international conference. And there were people from all over places, and that was amazing. It was an amazing experience itself. And that would kind of draw me towards politics, my interest, area of interest, what I thought would have been my area of interest. And then I was also part of the newspaper of the high school, newspaper journal, depending on which high school you are. And all the activities in my high school, they were really nice because they were all self-managed by the students themselves. So we didn't have teachers who would coordinate them. We were all doing it on our own, trying to get funding on our own. That was the most difficult part. And then trying to just explore the topics that we wanted. So that was really an amazing experience. And something that we did with the class was actually a trip to an island in Italy, in which we cleaned some of the paths that people would use during the summer. And so we helped the local community to sort of develop environmentally friendly programs, but we were working with them to get to know the community. And it seemed such a big thing. It was actually like just a week, but there was a lot of preparation going on to it. And that was something really, really nice that made us discover stuff outside of the classroom. So that was really amazing. And that's something that I included in my application as well.
Great. And I would also say that reminds me that it's always a good idea to pick, emphasize those activities that the universities you're applying to really value as well. You know, NYU is very much about experiential learning and getting out in the world. So that can really play to the strength of your application as well. Thanks for sharing. And Sophia?
Definitely. So as well, I also did MUN. I was a huge MUN kid in high school. I think it really translated well when I came to NYU Abu Dhabi because first of all, classes do feel like an MUN conference. We really are representing different views from all around the world. And then secondly, I think what really set me apart in my application was the initiative I showed within MUN, because it was not just attending conferences, but I also helped organize my school's conference. I was very involved in actually organizing conferences and giving opportunities to other students. So I think that definitely helped me with my application. Coming to NYU Abu Dhabi, with the meetings we do Model Arab League, so I translated the MUN experience to the regional focus on discussing Arab politics. Secondly, I was also part of the entrepreneurship club. I created a startup when I was 16, which definitely helped me also show initiative in my application, show that I'm a self-starter, I'm self-motivated, and it was generally an experience that still helps me to this day. I currently am interning at venture capital, and the learnings I have from creating a startup on my own still helped me with my work today. And then finally, I helped co-create a human rights hub in my high school. So that was actually the topic of my Common Up essay as well, talking about how I saw injustice at the time in Athens and actually helped create a club to support these issues in my community.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So now for a bit of a technical question. Could you tell us what standardized test you submitted and how you came to this choice, if you had the choice, or what that process was for you? And maybe kind of what your expectations were. I know a lot of students, automatically think, oh, it's a US student, so I have to submit the SAT or I have to submit this exam. But a lot of universities, including NYU, have a more flexible testing policy. So let's stick with Sophia and go in reverse this time.
Definitely. So I didn't do IB. I was actually in the general Greek curriculum path. So I had the opportunity to do the Pan-Hellenic exams, which I didn't in the end after I got into some American universities in NYU AD. I wanted to take an American standardized test early on just to be done with it and like be sure about the offer I have. And I started off with SAT. I really was not scoring well. I don't know what was happening, but it did not make sense to me intuitively, the answers. I moved to ACT and I scored amazing the first time I took it. So I started focusing on ACT only. I think the science section really helped me because I'm an engineering major. I'm more good with science and graphs rather than, the math portion or the English portion of the SAT. So definitely if you're going to do the American standardized test route, take a lot of practice tests between the different tests to see which matches your abilities better.
Great. And Nicolo?
For me, it's a bit different because I didn't take any standardized tests. I only took the English first certificate, which is the language certificate, that if you do well, you can score C1, and I scored B2, actually. So just to encourage everyone who is like kind of scared of their also English level, that there are possibilities for everyone. So yeah, and also because for me, from where I come from, it would be difficult to take those standardized tests because they're usually in the capital and very big cities. So like, for example, Italy, you can take it in Milan or Rome. And for me, I didn't even know how that process would work out. And yeah, I was really not aware of those things. So, and I saw that application for NYU didn't require, so I just relied on my high school grades in my curriculum.
Awesome, thanks. And finally, Dimitrios. I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now? Perfect.
Yeah.
So I did the IB, so in that essence, I could have just applied with that, but I had also done the SAT to see where I could be. So I ended up applying with both of them. And what I really wanted to mention was the fact that the faculty working at admissions actually are really quite aware of the different academic curricular programs. So in that essence, you should not feel afraid. You should not feel like you don't have chances because you're doing a different product. I remember having a conversation with one of the admission faculty who actually was pretty aware of all the different programs around Europe because that was his field. So in that essence, don't feel intimidated, don't feel anything bad. You all have an equal chance because of your programs.
Excellent advice. And I always tell students to do your research. Don't just automatically assume that it has to be that one test. And as you've heard from these students, find the test that's best for you. If it's doing the Greek national curriculum, if you're doing Pan-Hellenics, that's perfectly fine. We don't weigh one above the other. Just do your research and make sure you're doing the exam that will best showcase your abilities and talents. The next question I'd like to ask is about the academic areas that you are applying to. One special thing about US liberal arts and sciences universities is that you're not applying, to the faculty of engineering or the faculty of arts or political science. You can actually come in undecided. We do want to see that you have an idea, that you have some academic passion, and that there's an area that you're interested in. But we don't specifically decide on those majors. So if we could, again, I'll start with Dimitrios. If you could tell us about, what you thought you would end up studying, and maybe tell us if that's the same thing or if that's changed in any way. How has that journey been?
So for me, I was determined from day one to study mechanical engineering. I said to myself, I should do engineering. I should do mechanical engineering specifically and nothing else. And the interesting part is that I didn't end up doing mechanical engineering, and I switched to electrical. And that's one of the things that I liked a lot, the ability to have the chance to go from one into another and to really explore the field. And I think one of the things that make NYU Abu Dhabi stand out is the fact that it gives you up to 2 years in essence, if you are in the field, in a specific field, to choose between the different sub-disciplines that you want to follow. So in that essence, you can go undecided, you can have a general idea, but you don't need to worry. You will figure out what you want to do during the process.
Great. Yeah. And Nicolo?
Yeah, for me, so I was kind of sure that I would have done either something related to politics or sociology. Those were my two main interests before coming here. It was also part of my why NYU essay, for example. The prompt I was talking about SRPP, which is one of the majors that there are at NYU Abu Dhabi, Social Research and Public Policy, which should be the closest thing to sociology. But then when I actually started it, I realized that was not what I was looking for, because here it's very much political science, and also these other major, they're very focused on the science part, and I'm more interested in the theory part. And the possibility to take classes in other departments was really liberating and amazing at the same time. And there are many opportunities, like not depending on the major that you will do, like you will always have the opportunity to discover other things, which is really nice. And for me, I found out the field of art history, and specifically museum studies, and I fell in love with that. And at first I wanted to do both, because there is the possibility to double major. So I wanted to double major in art history and political science, but then I dropped the political science part, and I just focused on art history in my last 2 years, when I was more aware of what I want to do afterwards.
Great, thanks. And Sophia?
Yes, so I applied everywhere I was applying to biomedical engineering. I knew I wanted to biomedical engineering from the very first application I submitted. At the time at NYU AD, there was no biomedical engineering. There was only general and the concentration to do biomedical and health systems. So I opted out for that major. However, now we do have bioengineering. It was a new major that was introduced. For me, it was kind of a linear, I always knew I wanted to do engineering. There were a lot of hard times where I almost dropped out into economics, which is the typical, it's a typical path that I think generally for engineering majors to switch to something like that. But I'm definitely really happy I stuck to engineering. I had a lot of opportunities to do research within engineering, and I really enjoyed my experience generally, especially within having the opportunity to take classes within engineering that are varied just to fit my biomedical concentration. So there is no preset set of courses I can take within engineering. I can take any engineering course that fits within the biomedical theme, and that has been really liberating to really apply my major to what I want to do.
Great. Also, I want to encourage our audience, as we're going along, please feel free to go ahead and type your questions into the chat. They don't have to be related specifically to what we're talking about now, but we'll make sure to save some time at the end to go through those. So feel free to start putting those in as we go along. For the next question, I want to, we've mentioned a couple times the essays. There are 2 essays that are required generally. For NYU, we have the personal essay, which is a very different piece of writing than most students are asked to do when they are applying to universities. And there's also a university-specific question. For NYU, this is really simple. It's why NYU? We want to know why us and why you. And these are not essays that you can just sit down, the night before your application is due and write these, because they are when I'm describing this essay, I usually tell students that, I tell them what this essay is not. So it is not, a letter of motivation. It is not, an academic paper. It's not a CV. In fact, it should not be anything we can find elsewhere in your application. So it's a chance to kind of set yourself apart and show us really kind of what makes you, you. So I know for a lot of international students and European students, this is not something that we're automatically used to doing. So if you could just share with us what your process was and how you approached this personal essay. And we'll go ahead and start with Sophia.
Okay, definitely. So for my YNYU essay, and that I think that really helped me as a tip, was to connect what I've already done in high school with what I want to do at NYU AD. So for example, I said I did MUN in high school. I wanted to model Arab League at NYU Abu Dhabi and really immerse myself in the local politics. And then I also connected my women in STEM work in high school to the Women's STEM Club at NYU AD. You really need to give the opportunity to the admissions officers to visualize you on campus, to visualize your impact as a student on campus. So you really need to reflect within yourself as to what you've already done, what you'll be offering, and what you want to do as a student there. And it cannot be just, oh, I saw there's this cool major, you need to go deep and say, I like this class, I like this research, I like this specific event and club. I think that really helps you set yourself apart and be very specific to the admissions officers as to what you will offer to the campus.
So great tips, thanks. And Nicolo?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Sophia said, and actually building on that, I would say that I don't know what worked in mine, but what I wanted to do was to really be sure that I would put my voice, my personal voice in it, and because the admission will only see that application. They can't know your voice. They can't hear your voice. They can't know your face. So it's really the moment that you reveal yourself. And for me, that was the moment that I could be the most honest that I could. And so I was honest for myself. I was honest with the university. And in my YNYU for this event, I went back to read it because it's been 4 years now. And I was actually putting things in perspective. I was writing about what I wanted from the university, what I could have given to the university, and also why NYUD was so important for me. And for me, back in the days, meant like leaving my own country and getting this new experience that I could have never done in Italy. And also what would happen even afterwards. And you don't have to know it. All of this is very general because it's very short. But what does it mean to have this program, to do this program, and what could happen afterwards, even just with your imagination? So I would say really be honest with yourself and what you want to put, because that's the moment that you can really reveal yourself. And for the longer one, mine, I didn't know what to do with it because I didn't know about American application, and I started as an academic paper. And then my teacher who supported me was like, this is nice, but you have to put your voice. So to go back to the same advice, when I rewrote it the second time, I dedicated basically half of it in what I would have done, if I had the chance, what I would have done, what I would have thought and conceived in my mind. So it's really much where you put yourself, that I would say. And also it's the place where you have to sort of craft a story and build a narrative that makes you look, how can I say it? That the university will like you, will like what you're putting there, because you don't want to be misunderstood to some extent. You really want to be yourself, and to that experience must be pleasant.
Great. And Dimitrios?
So for me, in regards to the why NYU essay, I was pretty direct in naming is why NYU Abu Dhabi, because I was pretty dead set at going to Abu Dhabi. So what I did is, before crafting that, I asked myself, and I tried to put myself in the position of how would I feel if I was a student of the university. I asked myself what I would like a lot about it. So in that essence, I wrote about those things. So I talked about the global experience, the fact that you can go from one campus to another, visit so many places, and become a more complete, shall I say, person, a true cosmopolitan. And additionally, the idea that you can have dinner with people from all different backgrounds, whether that is life backgrounds or even cultural backgrounds, even more. And I also talked about, I tied it with my academic interests, whether that is engineering, how I could accomplish some of my life goals, how could I accomplish some of my aspirations as an engineer, due to the chances given for research in NYU Abu Dhabi. And in regards to the longer essay, I had sort of a similar experience with Nicolo, in the sense that I remember the first time that I crafted it, it looked like a CV. Like I had managed to connect all of the sentences of a CV. So I asked myself, I should not just write that. I should add something that is personal, something that is a voice, not something that is sort of connected bullet points. So I asked myself what I should write about, and I sort of wrote about a love story. And in that essence, as a romantic, I try to connect my affection for a certain person towards my aspirations and how my stubbornness in some regards could actually help me accomplish my goals.
Great. And I think that's a really great point too about using the network that you have. We know that this isn't a familiar process. So if you have a counselor or a teacher or your parents or a friend, use them to help revise your essay. It's really important to share that and ask them, are these things coming through? Does this sound like me? What do you learn about me when you read this essay. So this is not something that you have to go through alone. Make sure that you use those people in your life who know you to really make sure that your voice is coming through in the essay. Since we only have about 10 minutes left in the presentation, I want to move on to the last question, which is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a student who's interested in applying to NYU Abu Dhabi today? If you had one kind of nugget of wisdom to impart to them, who would you, what advice would you give them? And we'll go ahead and stick with Dimitrios.
Definitely. So I would say, be yourself and write about yourself. Don't write about the person that you would believe an admissions officer would like to envision. Don't write about the person that is sitting next to you and you're thinking that maybe he will get into, so if I write something like that, I maybe get into as well. So don't do that. Be yourself, because at the end of the day, that's who are you going to be when you come to campus. So in that essence, I think that an application goes both ways. In essence, you have to be a fit for the university, and also the university has to be a fit with you. So if you're not a fit for the university, you're not going to have a good time if you write about somebody else. So in that essence, be yourself, be true to yourself, and I'm sure you will do fine.
Thanks for sharing that. That's something that I get tired of saying, and I know it's so well worn to tell people to be themselves, but it really is fantastic advice. At the end of the day, that is really what's going to allow you to really achieve everything you can achieve. And Nicolo, how about you?
For me, I would say, well, Dimitrios stole mine, but no, I want to say that for me, for example, I wasn't sure to apply at first, because I was thinking, this is such an international place. Why would it take me from this small town in Italy, blah, 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 blah. But then actually the people around me encouraged me, because I had nothing to lose. And that was true. Like, I had nothing to lose in the application. And look where I am now. So I would say, if you're in doubt, try. It takes time, of course, and you have to plan it. But if you think, even if you have a 5% that you want to apply, go for it and try your best, and be honest to yourself, and ask for advice to anyone, because even people who don't know anything about university and colleges, they may give you a nice advice that you will never hear from someone else. So ask as many people as you can for support, and you don't never know where you're gonna find it.
Great. Yeah, you miss 100% of the opportunities that you don't take up. And finally, Sophia.
Yeah, so for me, I would say I really regret doubting myself when I was applying. I really regret not being more reflective when I was applying. I feel like Dimitri said, I was really scared that I need to be a very specific type of person to be accepted at NYU AD. So all I have to say is that if you've gotten this far and you are truly considering NYU AD, you probably have done great things in your high school career that are worth talking about. There is a story you can tell. You don't need to have gone through some insane life story to actually write your Common App essay. It can be about a small thing you contributed to your community. Really be reflective of your impact in your community. Be true to yourself and like what you've done for the past 3 years in high school, and reflect and write those essays to kind of like reflect this story and try to understand how your impact lasts to this day.
Great. Thanks so much. So there are a few questions coming in now, so I'll go ahead and direct them to you. One is about how has NYU helped you with your future planning? So maybe you could talk a little bit about the Career Development Center and what that connection has been.
I can go since I'm last year. I would say that coming from a European background was difficult, because not difficult, but it was a bit hard to understand how here the environment works, because in Italy university, you will never speak directly with your professors at university, for example. But here, it's one of the best things that I did in my 4 years. I built strong relationship with the faculty, with professors, with people from the different departments in general. And everyone is, I would say, everyone is really available, and they're there for the students, at least on average. Of course, there are always exceptions, but on average, professors are really there for you, and they care if you also care. So it's a balance. And I would say that to that extent, when I started to major in the arts, I was, of course, scared because it's a difficult field. But I actually found out so many options and possibilities because of the Emirates, because it's a really nice place to be, and the university, because it's a nice name. So all of those things really give you a nice background by default. So I would say that if you are motivated, there's always a way. The most difficult part is to come here, honestly. But from here on, there is always a way.
Great.
I mean, I would say for me, what really helped is, first of all, the Emirates are really buzzing right now with opportunity. There's just so much that's happening, and there's so much availability and lack of youth in terms of like other universities to get involved. So there's just so much opportunity for youth. So for me, I just feel like opportunities are really endless, even though it's a very small country. Especially, I decided, even though I'm an engineering major, I decided to go into finance, and I started seeing all these opportunities in venture capital, which is typically inaccessible if you're anywhere else in the world. But there's truly so many venture capital firms here because the place is buzzing. Abu Dhabi is buzzing, Dubai is buzzing. And I think what also really helped is that, yes, we're recognized as like the top university in the UAE. So that gives us a lot of extra recognition in kind of application processes. Secondly, the alumni network. I know we're a very, very young university, but they have actually helped me get internships. They have actually directed to me opportunities I probably would have never seen in my life. So I think having a very high achieving but young alumni network has helped in identifying opportunities, not only in the UAE, but all around the world. We really are such a young university, but we have alumni everywhere. Like every city I've looked into, I always see on LinkedIn people who work there from NYU.
Great. I'm going to move on to the next question just because we're a little short on time. This one is, what are some difficulties you faced when you moved from a European country to a multinational campus like NYU?
I could take this one. So I would say that one of the greatest difficulties I faced was that I didn't face any difficulties. It was a smooth transition. It was no problems at all. Meaning that I think that people, while everybody is literally from a different country, while there are 130 different countries and different nationalities on campus, everybody is understanding, everybody is respectful, so you're not going to encounter any problems. I think that the fact that it is a multicultural environment, it's more of a benefit because you get to experience those different cultures, because you get to become what we call a global leader, because you get to actually cherish the opportunities and have those late night discussions about politics from anywhere around the world. So in essence, I was fortunate enough, I didn't face any difficulties. But I would also say that the university operates as a huge support network to you. You're going to make friends from all around the world, and those friends are going to stick to you through thick and thin. There are so many good people in here. There are so many welcoming people in here, both from the host country, but also your classmates. So in essence, you will never feel alone. You will never feel like there is a problem and that you don't have anybody to support you through it.
Great, thanks. Nicolo or Sophia?
Well, I can just add that what really made my NYU AD experience was actually what was not happening in the class. So everything that it was meeting people, meeting my peers, making friends, and all of that is really what makes the NYU AD experience and why this university stands out. Because you have academic excellence, yes, but then you can find it also in other places. What is different here is that you have that to another level and level of diversity that in very, very, I think, no places in the world you could find.
Great, thanks so much. So unfortunately, we'll have to draw it to an end now as we're coming to the end of the presentation. This does not have to be the end of the conversation, though. Feel free to drop by our booth. And also, you can reach out to me for contact information. I'm sure our student panelists today would be happy to take further questions. Thank you so much for showing up. We greatly appreciate hearing your experiences and your voices. This is such a valuable thing, and we really value it. And also, Ariane, thanks so much for giving us this time and place. If you have any closing comments, I'm sorry we didn't get to
all I can say is that fairs like this and sessions like this are the good thing that came out of COVID. So, you know, always look at the positive side of everything. And we really appreciate you all being here today and taking the, you know, every opportunity you get, connecting with schools, connecting with students. Definitely the students from the school are the people that can give you that, you know, detailed vision of the school or the institution you're looking for. So always go to them. Thank you so much, the three of you, for giving us your time.
Great. Thanks so much, and kalispera, everyone, and hope to hear from you in the future.